The paper that I gave at the conference this weekend was on Miss Havisham, and I turned my attention back to earlier interests I had in post-colonial theory and post-colonial studies. And a question I've long had is Miss Havisham a sort of anglicized stand-in for the Indian Sati, the Hindu widow self-immolator, who was an incredibly controversial figure in 19th century England. You have an 1829 decree saying that women in Bengal cannot self-immolate, and a few decades later, Queen Victoria sort of puts out this decree for the entire empire saying women cannot burn themselves on a pyre that has been built to burn the bodies of their dead husbands. Again, it was incredibly controversial, big questions having to do with intentionality surrounded these practices. Do the women mean to burn? If they do, then should we really be intervening? If they don't mean to burn, who is it that is coercing them to do so? And we should be intervening, and we are the heroes. And Dickens writes a novel about a woman who, in the end, burns, and her body burns, and it's very unclear whether or not she means to do it. And when Pip intervenes to save her, it actually feels sort of coercive in the opposite direction. One of the things that Gayatri Spivak says about the study stories that come out of England in the 19th century is that they all are built around the same basic framework, which is you have white men saving brown women from brown men. If Dickens was bringing that story home, then how do we have to refashion that or rethink that? How might he have been rethinking it? You have a white man saving a white woman, and from what? From himself, from herself, from another white man, from culture more broadly. And so I think that's really interesting. The only other person I could find who had written about this was Shannon Fiske, and she talks about Miss Havisham as the study in terms of the Indian Mutiny, and questioning whether or not Dickens was thinking through his own feelings about India at the time by using Miss Havisham to portray that figure. But I was sort of taking this in a different direction, in that this is also when, of course, he separated himself from Catherine. And I think he's thinking through marital practice and marital custom very specifically. The study as, I don't know, maybe his reflection upon, not only his role as victim in marital practice, which we all know he felt like he was victimized by it because he couldn't get the separation or the divorce that he really wanted. But what about the women in his life who are being immediately affected by the decisions that he's making, the marital decisions that he's making at that time, the self-erasure that he's enacting upon them through those decisions, and the untenable places that he's putting them in. And so that's where my interests lie in it, and that's where I am so far.